Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to work on the introductory lesson of a single arm kettlebell swing. In previous videos in the series, we've had the kettlebell with the handle parallel to our body line. For this video, let's turn it perpendicular to the line of our body. Starting from our standing position, kettlebell directly between the insteps of our feet, take a step back 12 to 18 inches. Pick one arm. We're going to get down to the bottom with our thumb pointed down. Thumb pointed down or back towards our body. Grab the kettlebell in the corner, in the L of the kettlebell. Drive your shoulder away from your ear to squeeze the lat. Pick the weight up and start to swing small with your thumb pointed back. Inhale down, exhale up. Set the kettlebell down in the same position it was in with good technique. This is an introduction to the single arm swing. Think of this as a baby single arm swing. The most important part is that our thumb points down. That way, if something goes wrong where our elbow is lining up with our hip joint, our elbow has a safety valve and it doesn't snap if we do something wrong. Over time, that coaching cue changes, but this is the first most basic coaching cue in the series on single arm swing. Starting up around the bell, step back 12 to 18 inches, point our feet straight ahead. At the top of every swing, drive your knees back, squeeze these muscles, stand all the way up, tuck your tailbone underneath to squeeze your glutes. Drive your rib cage down, make yourself as thin as possible. With our thumb pointed down, drive that shoulder away from your ear to engage the lat. We're going to grab the kettlebell directly in the corner of the handle, the L of the handle. Thumb points down. Grab with the thumb and the first two fingers dominant part of your grip. Different kettlebell schools will coach this differently. I find this the easiest to learn in the beginning. Grab. Your bottom two fingers won't be doing all that much work. Hike the weight back. Actively push the weight back behind you like you're hiking a football. Push back, snap up, 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 push back, track it out in front of you to set it down gently. When we move from having two hands on the kettlebell to having one hand on the kettlebell, there's obviously twice as much force on one hand. So your grip starts to get stronger. Try not to track your arm up above parallel to the ground. In the beginning, let's keep it down at a 45-degree angle or so. That encourages us to stand up with our hips and squeeze our glutes. When people start to lift their hand up too high, they tend to lift their rib cage in the beginning until they get better athletic mastery of the skill. So think of this as a baby single arm swing. Focus on the thumb back, make your arm straight. Your forearm should contact the inside of your thigh in the beginning. The problem that all people have with swings at the beginning is they go way too low. With the two-handed swing, we want to track inside of our arm directly to the inside of our leg. If you are not touching the inside of your leg, but your hands are down really low, you're not in the correct position yet. The same thing is true of this single arm swing. Our forearm should contact the inside of our leg. If our arm is not contacting our leg, we are not in the correct position yet. Push your hips back. Put your hand in place. Stand up. Lift your hand up 45 degrees. Come back down. Contact, sit down. Stand up. Work on your positional coaching cues. If you are in the right position, you are less likely to hurt yourself in the beginning. In the beginning, there is always a chance you can hurt yourself. That's why we're going through this one exercise at a time, all the coaching cues repeated in series. The better your foundation at doing your beginning exercises, the more likely you are to succeed in your advanced athletic training. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to introduce the kettlebell hand-to-hand transition. The hand-to-hand transition is based off of our baby single arm swing. So we learned our two-hand deadlift to build our structure. We worked on our two-handed swing because it's easier to learn. Then we went to our single arm baby swing where we were only swinging up to about 45 degrees with our arm. Now we're gonna work on rotating our thumb towards the sky, finding our other hand, thumb to thumb, pointing our thumb back. Simple coaching cues first. Hip dip, arm touches the inside of the leg. Stand up, roll your thumb towards the sky. The other hand will find the kettlebell, grab. As you go down, point your thumb back so that if something goes wrong, your elbow is in a safe position. Stand up with the hips, thumb up, grab, thumb down. Snap hips, thumb up, grab, thumb down, absorb with the hips. Now with the kettlebell, 2 feet point straight ahead, take a step back, 12 to 18 inches. Make sure your handle is perpendicular to the line of your body. Hands in the crease of the hips, sit back in the heels, knees behind the line of the toe. L of the hand to the L of the kettlebell. Grab thumb, fingers. Bottom 2 fingers are kind of floating on this one. Hike the weight back, stand up strong with the hips. This is not an arm exercise. This is a hip hamstring exercise. Sit back, snap. Sit back, snap, 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 sit back, snap. Sit back, thumb touches down. Stand all the way up. We're pretty specific about this coaching cue of thumb down to save the elbow, thumb up, because there will be space on the bell for your hand to grab the other side of the kettlebell handle. And then as we track back, we point that thumb back so that we can get into our proper hip position. All of the dynamics are the same through all of these different videos. The important part that we're learning with all of this is hip snap. The important part about this video is we are learning to transition in the easiest position when we're standing all the way up. We're not transitioning with our hands down low. We're not transitioning at the bottom. We're transitioning at the top. As the kettlebell swings up for a brief moment, it stops moving and it weighs nothing here. It weighs the most at the bottom as the weight is swinging down. So we are going to change hands at the easiest possible time, when it weighs nothing, when it is directly in front of our eyes, and when we are standing up. Thumb is pointed towards the sky so the other hand can easily find the bell. You can see it directly in front of you. You are most likely to have success in this position. This exercise is practiced 4 reps in the beginning, maybe 3 transitions with each hand for a total of 6 swings, and then you would put it inside of an EMOM every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. So you would take a timer, set it for 60 seconds, perform your 3 reps on each side or 6 hip snaps, and then you would wait the rest of the minute. You would calm down, you would let your heart rate settle so that you can focus on doing the next set. As your heart rate gets high, your ability to think goes down in the beginning. As you get in better shape, that will change. But everybody loses an ability to think when their heart rate reaches a certain level. So we want you to try to succeed with this by having lots of break in between small sets. Do small sets, learn to succeed, set the weight down, recover, do it again. The goal is to learn to succeed, not to learn to fail. If you're dropping the weight every time, start to make smaller sets. Make it lighter, figure out how to do it correctly so that when you go up to heavy weights or you get your heart rate high, you are more likely to do it correctly and not get hurt. Not getting hurt is always the goal. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica here at Ganbate Fitness in Los Angeles, California. And today we are going to talk about a kettlebell introductory swing clean. The normal order of learning for kettlebells starts with the 2-handed deadlift so people can build their proper base of support. Then they move that to their 2-handed swing, the kettlebell version of the deadlift. Think of it as an endurance deadlift. Then we move to working on our rack position. We work on our rack position separate from the clean itself so that we make sure we're catching properly. If you catch the kettlebell properly, then you will not hurt yourself. You will be more likely to continue your training and get what you want out of training. After we learn the rack pickup, we start to integrate it into the push back clean. Let's step up to our kettlebell, 2 feet pointed straight ahead, 2 hands down. Pick up, get our kettlebell up to the rack position. Rack position, forearm vertical, elbow close to hip. If you were to open your hand, your fingers would be pointing towards the sky. If you open your hand and your fingers are pointed to the side, pick up the bell, and adjust it, the L of the hand in the corner, the L of the kettlebell, until you can get your hand perfectly straight. This is incredibly important moving forward. Once we are in our rack position, we are going to push the kettlebell back and then set the kettlebell down out in front. Push back, thumb back, set down out in front. Step up to your bell, pick up with two hands, grab L of the hand to the L of the kettlebell, push back, perfectly straight arm, thumb points back, set all the way down. Readjust yourself back to the bell, step up, pick up, good rack position, kettlebell is in the correct position, thumb points back at the bottom, push back, track down, stand all the way up in between each rep. The important part about this drill is that we are starting from rack position and we are pushing back to the bottom of our single arm swing. That is the point of this drill. People are learning to get the interior of their forearm to connect to the interior of their thigh, up high on the inside of their thigh. If your hand is too low, below the line of your knee, or your forearm is not in contact with your leg, you are not in the correct position yet and you are in danger of hurting your back. The goal is to keep the kettlebell close to our body by pinning our elbow to our hip, rolling our thumb back and down, and then sitting back to absorb the falling weight with the big muscles of our legs. Our crown to coccyx, top of our head to tailbone alignment should be straight. We are absorbing the force with our legs. And then we are going to simply set the weight down, thumb points back when we set the weight down. Because you set the kettlebell down in front of you every time, you will start to walk around the room when you do this drill. You will not end up in the exact same place in the room every rep. That's fine. This is still a prep drill. We are learning to catch the kettlebell at the bottom and absorb force. Let's demonstrate it again with the other side. Kettlebell handle perpendicular to the line of my body. Step up, kettlebell directly between the insteps of our feet. Two hands on. Get the kettlebell up to rack position. L of the hand to the L of the kettlebell. Feet pointed straight ahead. Elbow stays pinned to body. Push thumb back. Set down. Step up to the bell. Pick it up. Rack position. Adjust the kettlebell as necessary. Push back. Track down, step up. Two hands, pick up the kettlebell, elbow stays pinned to the hip, push back, set it all the way down with good technique. Stand up without hurting yourself. This is a simple drill, but it is not easy. There are a lot of things you need to think about when you do this, so do it as slow as you need to. Do sets of 3 to 5 on each side, take a break, and then repeat it. This is a drill that you do in the first several weeks of kettlebells where we figure out how to transition from our rack position, thumb at collarbone height, down to the bottom with our thumb pointed back. Arm is perfectly straight at the bottom of the movement. We do not want to hold tension in our elbow or we will cause ourselves undue elbow strain. Start with a light kettlebell. Kettlebells are cheap, surgery is expensive. Start at the appropriate weight and we have tons of videos on appropriate weights. Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to continue our basic kettlebell instruction series, and today we are going to combine a bunch of elements together to get to our first kettlebell swing clean. Kettlebell cleans are very hard for most people to learn. So in this video series, we have laid out a bunch of steps to get to this point, and you should watch all the other videos and practice all the other techniques before you get to the technique in this video. Good technique means that we are less likely to injure ourselves, means that we are more likely to get what we want out of training. Kettlebell lifting is about endurance weightlifting. So the better our structure, our breathing, and our movement combined together, the longer we will be able to endure and the more we will be able to get out of our kettlebell training. Kettlebell training is very unique in that way as endurance weightlifting, and it has different physiological effects than other types of weightlifting on the body. In the beginning, it is important that our kettlebell handle be perpendicular to the line of our body. That means that when we pick up the kettlebell, our thumb will be pointed down and our thumb will go to the corner of the kettlebell. Where we grip the kettlebell is very important because it means that we will end up in the correct rack position. Starting from the correct grip is how you get good technique over time. Starting with the kettlebell directly between the insteps of our feet, we are going to pick it up with two hands, Go to single hand rack position, push the weight back, stand all the way up and catch back in rack position. We will pause and adjust the bell if needed to get to the correct rack. Pick it up with two hands. Left hand underneath, L to the L of the kettlebell. Pick it all the way up. The L of your hand ends up in the L of the kettlebell. There should be no space in this upper corner. Get it nice and tight. Elbow close to hip, forearm vertical. Pin the elbow to the hip, push the weight back, and return to standing. Several things are happening here. Elbow is not going to move. Our thumb is going to point back at the bottom to straighten our arm all the way out. We're going to absorb the force with our hips, then stand all the way up with our hips. Push back, catch. Squeeze the glutes at the top, belly button in. Push back, catch, push back, catch, push back, catch. If on the catch you don't feel that the kettlebell is in the correct position with the handle at 45 degrees down, then you can adjust the bell each time. Push back, straight arm, stand up, catch, adjust the bell to get to the correct position, push back, catch, adjust to get to the correct position, push back, catch, adjust the bell to get to the correct position. Set the weight down with good technique. Two hands on, perfectly straight arms, set it down. This drill is organized into a series of learning points. Pick up with two hands so that you can get to the correct starting position first. If you start in the correct position, you've already done half of it correct. Pin your elbow to your hip. As the kettlebell tracks out, the thumb rolls in until it points back. The arm was perfectly straight. Track down, feet point straight ahead, absorb the force with your glutes. Crown to coccyx alignment is generally straight. Snap up with the hips, keep the elbow pinned to the hip, roll the thumb back up, thumb comes to collarbone height. This is all about the elbow. Thumb points back, thumb at collarbone height. Thumb points back, thumb at collarbone height. Flat wrist is key to your catch. There is a difference between a kettlebell catch, a dumbbell catch, and a barbell catch. Learn the kettlebell catch. It is different than the other catches. Let's demonstrate this quickly on the other side. Step up to the kettlebell, 2 feet point straight ahead because that's the way we walk. Kettlebell is directly between the insteps of our feet. The knee is behind the line of the toe. Right hand dominant. The L of the right hand goes to the corner of the kettlebell. Other hand supports underneath. Pick it up, get to our rack position. Right elbow close to right hip, right thumb at the height of the right collarbone. Hand vertical. Handle 45 degrees down, different from a barbell catch. 45 degree down is the kettlebell catch. Pin the elbow to the hip, absorb with the legs, point the thumb back. Point back, stand up, catch. If you need to readjust your hand so that you're doing the negative part correctly, the down part correctly. Push back, stand up, push back, stand up, adjust each time if you need to, push back, stand up. Grab with the other hand, make 2 arms perfectly straight, set the kettlebell down directly between the insteps of our feet with our thumbs pointed straight ahead or up. The kettlebell clean can be very difficult for people to learn, so we break it down into a bunch of small steps, focusing on the top position. If your top position is good, you will reduce the amount of pain. If your elbow is out, your wrist is bent, and the kettlebell is laying on the wrong part of your arm, you will not be able to endure, which means you will not get the benefit of kettlebell training. Focus on each of these individual clean drills. Build it up over time for the first several months of training. If you are getting bruised up on the back of your arm, it could be that you're just not used to the pressure of the kettlebell, or it could be that you're catching weird. If you are self-coaching, it's hard to know. So remove one thing, make the top of the clean position good, the rack position, and then your body will adapt to the pressure on the back of your arm over time.